begin. Namaste and welcome to Soulful Sundays with Dr. Mitali, FB Live, 4:30 p.m. Our topic for today is why me? This is something which might come across as a question that most of us ask ourselves when we go through some tough times and through some tough situations in our life. And in my clinic for the last 24 years of my practice, this is a question that has been asked by my patients so many times to me when they are sitting across my table. And yes, there was a time in my life when I was on the other side of the table, diagnosed with third stage ovarian cancer in June 2013, when I asked the same question to myself, why me? And when this question is presented in front of us, we always feel that we have lived such a simple, straightforward, easy-go life, and why should I be the one who has to suffer, and why should I be the one who has to go through such difficult and tough challenges of life? In my clinic, when a patient walks in with a medical label like cancer, or a medical label like chronic fatigue syndrome, or multiple sclerosis, or a debilitating, crippling rheumatoid arthritis, or even something like an irritable bowel syndrome, these are questions which are haunting the patient as well as their family. Why me? And well, today we are trying to go and dive into this whole questionnaire and understand what is it that is, what is the meaning of this? Well, one thing that I have realized and what I have understood is there is nobody sitting up there in the clouds sending diseases to all of us according to his checklist. God is not sitting there deciding, let's send cancer to Mitali, let's send irritable bowel syndrome to Ravi, let's send rheumatoid arthritis to Anjana, let's send multiple sclerosis to Swati. No, definitely not. There's something that intervenes in between and that results in this kind of a disease. And sometimes what I have experienced is that this could be a way of life giving us a second chance, and most importantly, life giving us a wake-up call. Sometimes we have landed up attracting and manifesting the disease for ourselves. Sometimes the diseases come as a wake-up call for ourselves. And today what I'm really going to talk about more explicitly is that sometimes the disease is something that we are holding on to because it has certain benefits for us. Well, surprised? But yes. And I'm going to explain you this based on some of my clinical case studies as well as some of the success stories in our clinic. Let's begin with one of my oldest patients, Mrs. Suman. Mrs. Suman was about a 60-year-old lady. When she came to the clinic, she was diagnosed with a CA stomach. A woman who led a very simple, very disciplined life, but yes, definitely a life that was full of hard work. A lot of hardship in her life. When she came diagnosed with cancer, she was staying with her daughter. Her son was looking after her. The whole family was doting after her. When I asked her, I said, do you know why you could have come up with such an illness? There could be a reason, there could be a secondary gain, there could be a benefit of you being diagnosed with cancer. She was a very intelligent woman. She said, Dr. Mitali, I can understand what you're asking me and I can relate to it. And I definitely know that this cancer has some benefit for me. And I asked her how. She said, let me tell you my story. My husband was diagnosed with paralysis. He had a very bad accident and for 24 years he was bedridden. All my life I have raised my 3 children. I have brought them up. And for the last 24 years I am looking after my bedridden husband. We stay in a small town. My life has been nothing but home, looking after him, raising children and trying to make ends meet. Today, my children are grown up. They are successful, they are standing on their feet. And my husband is in fact actually a very loving and caring person. And he gives me all the possible freedom that I would need. And yet, it is my duty, it is my conscience which should not allow me to step outside the house and leave him alone, even for a single day. Apart from that, you also know what society is. I could connect what she was saying. She said, this label of cancer, things have changed for me completely. For the last 1 month, I have come here to Pune. I'm staying with my daughter. I'm going to hospitals, I'm taking care of myself. And the whole family, the whole community, whole society is now like, Suman, you need to take care of your health. Don't worry about your husband. We are there for him. You can definitely appoint 2 24-hour maids to look after him. Somebody can take care of it, don't worry. Even the children were, Ma, you really need to look after yourself. Don't worry about Papa. The husband was also equally understanding and allowing her to go ahead and take her treatment. There was this one small longing that Suman had in her heart, to step out of the house, to go out and see the world, to live her life of her own. And she herself would not allow this out of her duties as a wife. Sometimes, forget what the society says and the world says. It is our own feelings, our thoughts and our guilt will not allow us to make choices for our own happiness. And that is exactly what was happening with her. And now do you see what was the benefit that this label was giving her? She could so very easily now step out of the house, take care of herself, do what she wanted to do. She had a wish to come and spend some time with her daughter and her son. And all that was happening, and she didn't have to be answerable to anyone, and most importantly, not answerable even to her own conscience. The label was protecting her, and that was the benefit of what her disease was for her. And she could understand why me at this stage of time, and how knowingly or unknowingly she had landed up manifesting something like cancer. This is a story of many of us. Diseases come as a disguise. Suffering come as a disguise. They bring us something. These are called as secondary gains or benefits. I don't know how many of you can relate to this, and how many of you have experienced these kind of secondary benefits. It could be something very small. You don't need a big label like cancer. Something happens. You just fall sick, and suddenly the whole house is around you. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody's looking after you. There's somebody bringing you hot water. There's somebody giving you a massage. The whole house is all the time giving you all the love and attention that you need. And something like a simple common cold could be a reason for you to get that love, affection and attention that you so much wanted for all these years, but didn't have the guts, didn't have the time, the energy to ask for. Get it? Exactly. Let me share you yet another example. And while I'm talking to you, I would really like all of you all to see if you have ever experienced these kind of secondary benefits or secondary gains of whatever you had to go through in your life. Let me share you another example of yet another patient of mine who was also diagnosed with cancer. Manorama. Manorama belongs to a very to a labor organization. She was a general secretary of that organization. That organization was like her baby. For years together, she had worked for that organization. And now she wanted to retire. And yet, the entire organization had got so used to her coming and working day in and day out that they just couldn't think of a single day with Manorama not being into the office. The entire office, the staff, the labor union, everybody there was like her children. She too couldn't think of stepping out of the office, out of the simple care worry for her staff to her workers. And as a result, what happened was that even though Manorama wanted to quit job, even though she wanted to step down from a very responsible position, take her life, do something for herself, maybe in the form of reading, writing, composing poems, following her music, taking care of her own health and fitness, it was not possible. Well, the day she was diagnosed with her breast cancer, this was a chance for her to step down without feeling guilty. And this was a chance by which Even her staff was possible to allow her to let go. They also could now have a justifiable reason to allow her to step down. It was not that the next batch of officers were not ready. They were all ready. They were all competent and they were all working under her. But they still wanted her to be on the top, take the leading position, take all the decisions and the onus on her shoulder. And she was tired. And for 4 years, she was trying very hard to step down from a position so that she could live a life of her own. Well, decisions delayed by us for whatever reasons, whether they are our personal goals, our ambitions, or our own limitations, if they are going to fret inside us for a very long time, try and understand the body is going to step in and play its role. So sometimes that is what needs to happen. How to avoid these kind of challenging situations. Take the decisions at the time when they need to be taken. Be brave enough to do what you need to do at that time. Otherwise, if you're not going to go ahead and learn to say no and learn to take the right decisions and step out of your guilt zone, life is going to make you do it. And most importantly, your own body, your own health is going to make you do it. And that is exactly what I mean by a secondary gain or a secondary benefit. As you realize, in this case of Manorama, there was no excuse now. This was a ready excuse for her to say that I need to take time off for myself. I need to take care of my health. My health comes first. And this was justifiable to her as well as the entire union she was working for. Do you connect with what I'm saying? Do you agree with and relate to what I'm saying? And if that is what you do, I like all of you all to give me a quick yes into the comment box. If some of you all have experienced this energy in your life, where something has happened which has actually seemed apparently on the face as a challenge, as a difficulty, where you're asking yourself, why me of all the people? And later down the time, you've realized that this has also come as a blessing in disguise. This has also come as a wake-up call, or maybe a life giving you a second chance. Yeah? Do you all agree with me? Wonderful. Yes. Now, yet another few examples which I just recently experienced. Ravi had come with an irritable bowel syndrome. 7 to 8 years Ravi was taking medicines from different doctors. He had gone to Ayurvedic doctors, he had gone to allopathic doctors, he had gone to homeopathic doctors, he had tried naturopathy, n number of things. And even when he had come to the clinic, he felt better and then he worsened again. He felt better, he worsened again. Eventually one fine day he asked me, when is this disease going to leave me? I'm trying so hard for the last 7 to 8 years to get rid of this disease. What's happening here? And I just told him, Ravi, let's try and twist the question the other way around. And instead of when is the disease going to leave me, ask yourself, when am I going to leave this disease? He said, what do you mean? Am I crazy? Do I want this thing? I'm the one who's suffering. I'm the one who has to sit into the toilet for 15-20 minutes and I have to go 10 to 15 times. I don't know what to eat. No matter whatever diet plan I follow, nothing works for me. My mind is all the time in my stomach. Why do you think I will hold on to this disease? And I said, there could be a reason. You don't know. Think about it. And as we slowly worked on with our mind-body healing therapies, through our program Heal From Within, Ravi was able to make those connections for himself. He was able to understand what was really happening in his life. To cut a long story short, Ravi was this boy in the family who took all the responsibilities. He was actually the younger son, but unfortunately, the elder son had gone haywire. He had become an alcoholic. The father had met with an accident. He had to take a voluntary retirement too early. And then suddenly, the entire burden of the house now came on to Ravi. As a very sincere boy, Ravi kept on working on everything that he needed to work, to make the ends meet. And not just make the ends meet, when the responsibility came on his young shoulders when he was just 2021. He in fact did amazing in his business. His business flourished. He got another home for his whole family. He re-established his family. And this was something that was never even seen in their community. And yet, there was one point which was saddening and which was disturbing Ravi. The entire family, all the time, kept showering all their attention, all their love, all their focus on the elder son and his family who was alcoholic. No matter whatever Ravi did, it never seemed to be noticed. No matter however hard he worked, his parents, his relatives, his mother always kept talking about the elder son, his plights, his difficulties, his agonies, his pain, and what such a bad luck he has. This was disturbing for Ravi. Initially, he tried to take it in his stride, but somewhere, even his feelings and emotions got affected. Somewhere deep within, even his beliefs got shaken. And he started feeling that I am alone. There's nobody who loves me. There's nobody who cares for me enough. And no matter whatever I do, it's never going to be recognized. These were self-sabotaging beliefs and signals which knowingly or unknowingly Ravi had landed up giving himself. As we did our therapy sessions through our program, we were able to unearth all these beliefs which had knowingly or unknowingly got created in the psyche of Ravi. Now do you realize what had happened? These negative sabotaging beliefs which Ravi was unknowingly giving to himself were somewhere responsible for him manifesting his irritable bowel syndrome. Now, since last 7 years, when he was suffering with irritable bowel syndrome, the whole house seemed to be running around him. Now, the focus of his mother was on him because he was losing weight. No matter whatever she gave him to eat, he couldn't seem to digest it. He always seemed to be having nausea. He always seemed to be restless. His sleep was disturbed. And suddenly, the whole house was focusing on Ravi and his physical and problems. Do you realize what Ravi had done here? What he really wanted for all these years? A little bit of care, a little bit of love, a little bit of attention, and most importantly, an acknowledgement of the efforts that this young boy had shouldered, even when he was just 20, 24, 1 years old. This is how his body had intervened to help him get what he was wanting. As we made these connections, Ravi was able to understand what was happening. A very smart and intelligent boy. It was very easy to tell him and explain to him that how could he get the same benefits without having to suffer? Does it mean that you have to suffer? Does it mean that every time your body has to manifest some grave illness? Your body has to go through some grave pain? How can you get the same benefit? The love, the attention, the guilt-free life, living out of freedom without having to go through this kind of painful, exhausting experiences. That's what it means when we work within with our subconscious mind, release the negative beliefs and the painful traumatic incidences, empower ourselves by neurolinguistically programming ourselves with new healthy belief systems, that the body automatically starts healing. The body gets a better chance to heal itself and release the traumas, the pains that the body has been holding on to, knowingly or unknowingly. Mind you, as I talk, all of you must have realized that this is not something that we do consciously. Ravi did not do this consciously. This is the subconscious mind, the younger me, the little me, who feels the pain day in and day out. Consciously, he was this hard-working boy who worked very hard, day in and day out, trying to make a better future, not just for himself, but for his own family. Even to the extent that he had not got married so that his family should not suffer. He had put his marriage on the back burner for nearly 4 years now because his health was not good. He didn't want to upset the girl and the girl's family by getting her married to a boy who's so sick. Do you realize the compromises that this boy had made without knowing that what was going on into his subconscious? Becoming aware of this and releasing this through good work, through good healing, was what was required for Ravi over here. And that's exactly what we do when we work with these kind of challenging situations. Not just treat the body, but also treat the mind and try and understand as to the mind and the subconscious could some way be responsible for creating the illness. And in fact, rather than the illness holding you, how you could be knowingly or unknowingly holding on to that illness. Does this connect with all of y'all? Have you all experienced something like this? How many of you in your life have experienced this kind of a situation? It might not just be illness. It could be something related to your personal life also. And it's only when something untoward happens is the time when we decide to stop, think, and take a turnaround. It could be a financial crisis in your life. It could be something where there is suddenly a loss in your business. It could be a death of a near and dear one. And that's when the time when we realize that these are situations which have actually come so that we can stop, rethink, reboot, and again rejuvenate ourselves. While I'm explaining this, I'm going to share with you yet another story. This is a story of Mahesh. Mahesh has been this budding engineer. He has been an entrepreneur all his life, doing some amazing business. And there was a time in his life when, for some labor and union problems, Mahesh had to shut down his factory. Having worked for 24 years in his factory, it was enough for Mahesh now. He was not interested in his factory work anymore, and he really wanted to call it quits. He wanted to do something different. He wanted to explore his passion. But there were partners in the business who wanted to go ahead and re-establish and restart. For some reasons, since the partners were also family members, Mahesh did not have the heart to say no. He did not have the heart to put forward his views and opinions because he didn't want to disappoint his family members who were also his partners. And against his wish, against his will, Mahesh went ahead and decided to re-establish the business once again. Though he continued working for the last 5 years, every day was like a pain getting out of bed and going all the way to the factory. And yet he kept on doing this, just because he felt it was his duty to do. Just because he was this perfectionist person who always believed in doing the right things at the right time and in the right way. And once he had taken a responsibility, he couldn't say no. Well, his partners also knew this very well, that when Mahesh is in the loop, all things get done in the best possible way. Like before, even when the venture was a new one, all responsibilities came to Mahesh. Life started becoming a drudgery. He didn't want to do this, and still he kept doing this. Till, yes, you said it, till the body finally decided to put a brake. Till finally, the body decided to put a speed breaker in a form of a disease. And when the medical label came across, it was a big surprise for the whole family, because Mahesh was this person who was so focused in his life, who actually measured his food, who measured his exercises, who did everything. People actually followed him looked up to him and really followed him and his routine. So the entire friends, the entire community, his entire business clan was shocked and surprised to see that Mahesh was suffering, and Mahesh was diagnosed with a label like cancer. Now do you realize what's happening over here? If you're going to push yourself into doing something that you don't want to do, you're not interested in doing, your heart is no more into it, and you're not happy about it, your body is going to speak. And your body is going to go ahead and force you to take those decisions which you for some reason could not go ahead and take it. When he came across this diagnosis, it was very obvious that all the family members, all the partners got together, and it was Mahesh could freely and frankly tell them that I am out of this business. I can't do this anymore. Everybody respected his opinion, and he was allowed to step down. But at what cost? The label at that time gave him the secondary gain, gave him the secondary benefit of what he wanted to do for all these years. 5 years of his life, when he was going to office, going to the factory day in and day out, every day when he came home, he felt, and he said, I'm not going to do this tomorrow. Every day in the morning when he got up and he said, why am I doing this? Finally, that's the signal, that's the death signal, that's the command that the mind sends to the body. And the body intervenes, and the body decides that if you're not going to take your call, then you maybe will have to be guided to take the call. And at that time, nobody could say no to him. In fact, his decision was respected. And more than anybody else, do you know who's the one who's most responsible for all this? Yeah, the person himself. Because more than anybody else, it is that person. It is his conscience, it is his nature that's not allowing him to go ahead and take those decisions. His inability to say no is what is stopping him from getting the best of what he wants from his life. So more than anybody else, it's for you. It's for you to step up into your power, to reclaim your power, to do and say what you really want to do and say. And that's what I want when I want to say this through today's talk. Why me? As I said, there's nobody sitting up there in the cloud distributing the illnesses, diseases, suffering and pain categorically. It's time that all of us own up, then take responsibility for where we are and who we are and how we are. And knowingly or unknowingly, we have somewhere landed up creating these situations for ourselves. And the first and the most important thing to do when we want to revert these situations is to open with immense self-love. Open with absolute love for yourself. And I don't mind if you want to call it being selfish. I always say this each time. Love yourself, understand what you want, listen to your inner voice, be honest to your gut instinct, and make the courage to do what is right for you. Because if you're not going to do that, if we are not going to do that, then life is going to make us do that. Our body is going to make us do that. Get it? Exactly. This is what I really wanted to say to all of you today. And when we are in our clinic, it's been now more than 24 years that I'm practicing as a holistic health practitioner. It was the same with me also. When in June 2013, I was diagnosed with this label, it was like, what? I am this avid trekker, I'm a cyclist, I'm a swimmer, I do running, and how is it possible? I am the one who's done Vipassana, I'm the one who's done meditation, I'm the one who's done Art of Living, I know SSY, I've done Brahma Kumaris, I listen so sincerely to B.K. Shivani, I listen so sincerely to Gurudev, I listen so sincerely to so many other gurus. How is it possible for me to fall sick? And I realized that there were some decisions in my life which needed to be taken at that point of time, and I was just putting them on the back burner. I just didn't have the energy, the resonance, the resilience, the guts to go ahead and do what I needed to do at that time. Even though day in and day out, life kept telling me that this is what I need to do. And that is what exactly happened. And it is from there that my whole journey of healing started. And it's last 7 years that this is the healing work that we do in our clinic. Recently, exactly keeping these different aspects in mind, which sometimes are more related to our subconscious mind and which cannot really be understood, touched and resolved by mere counseling, is when we started working on the whole concept of heal from within. As I always say to my patients, I don't do counseling. I don't believe in counseling anymore. Because I always feel that each of us is caught into this kartapan varatnai. I know it, but I don't know how to do it. Most of us, each of us are in this. So anybody, any counselor, by just putting things across to you and pointing things out to you, I feel is just telling you what's wrong with you, which you already know. The problem is we don't know how to get out of it. I did counseling for a very long time, till I myself came across my own illness and I realized I know all this. How do I get out of it? How do I get out of my pain? How do I get out of my anger? How do I let go of my bitterness, my resentment? And that's when I realized that healing helps. That's when I realized that healing allows us to release our past emotions, to release our negative beliefs, to release our sabotaging thoughts and our patterns. Yes, Kranti, I completely agree with you. Healing others automatically heals you. That's a fantastic energy to be at, to be able to heal others, to be able to come from this place of giving others. And still I would like to say that you can only give when you're enough. जो अंदर है ना वही बाहर आएगा. अगर कुएं का पानी खट्टा है तो कितना भी पानी निकालो, बाहर निकलने वाला पानी भी खट्टा ही निकलने वाला है. This is something that you need to understand. If deep within you are unhappy, no matter whatever you do, you are not going to be able to make other people happy. No matter whatever you do, that energy with which you do it is not going to be an energy of happiness, joy and giving. It's going to be an energy of desperation. And that is why I always say that change begins from you. Me first. If anything needs to happen, it needs to happen from you first. When you are happy, you are satisfied, you are enough inside. When you have learned to love yourself enough, is the only time when you can go out, reach out and help other people. And it is that energy with which you go and reach out and help other people, you create that difference in somebody else's life. Because you bring that amazing energy into that in their life of absolute bliss, joy, peace and calmness, because that is what you are inside. So yes, service to the community definitely, but service to self first. Be the change that you want to see is not something that was frivolously said by Mahatma Gandhi. If any healing needs to happen, if any change needs to happen first within. Needs to happen with yourself first. Because unless you've tasted it, you cannot give it to anybody else. You cannot ask somebody to forgive. Unless you've done the act of forgiving someone yourself. You cannot ask somebody to let go unless you've yourself worked on yourself and learned the art and done some work of letting go your pain, your fears, your anxieties, your worries, your attachments. Unless you've learned to move on in life, you cannot easily tell anybody else to move on. So it is only possible. So it's parallel and it goes hand in hand. When you're working for the community, where you're working for others, if you're working on yourself, it empowers you. It gives you all the enough energy that you need. I sit 2.5 hours with one client for their therapy work. And sometimes my family really worries for me. My friends really worry for me. My staff, when they see me, they ask me, how do you manage to sit like this? Working so deep into mental and emotional issues for 2.5 hours, or sometimes even more with just one client. And in a day, you're working with minimum 2 to 3 clients. How can you give that kind of energy? It's only possible because you've done your work and you're parallelly doing your work, because that keeps you all the time in energy. It keeps you all the time connected to the grace and the universe. And all that you need to do and need to make happen just happens through you, where you just become the channel. जैसे वो कृष्णा की बांसुरी है, अंदर से पूरी खाली, तभी जाके उसमें से हवा जाती है और म्यूजिक बनता है. So only when you are empty, only when you have done work on yourself day in and day out, and only when you are working on yourself and cleansing and clearing your energy, is it possible for you to keep giving endlessly to the community. And that is why I completely agree. Service to the society, service to the community is very important. And while you're doing that, remember to put yourself on the list also. Otherwise, you'll exhaust yourself. You'll burn yourself. You'll be finished. If you have to, it's simple है ना, गाड़ी अगर चलनी है तो उसको सर्विसिंग तो होना ज़रूरी है. उसको ऐसे ही दौड़ाओगे 100, 200, 1000, 2000, 4000 किलोमीटर तो नहीं बन पाएगा. पहले गाड़ी लेते हैं तभी द सर्विस द शोरूम टेल्स अस 5000 किलोमीटर हो जाएगा तो सर्विसिंग के लिए लेके आना. So that's, it's not even 5000, 2500 kilometers is they expect you to bring for the first servicing. Why do they expect you to do that? Because it's a new vehicle. It needs its greasing, it needs its oiling, it needs its resetting. And that's exactly with our body also. It's not that only when you fall sick, when you fall ill, when you fall into crisis, when you have a financial crisis, when you have a relationship crisis, when your work is where your work and family life is in a fix, where your work-life balance is not in place, is when you start working on yourself. Working on yourself, clearing and cleansing your energies, healing yourself from within, needs to happen day in and day out as a part of your daily routine. As soon as we get up in the morning, we brush our teeth. That's our part of our dental hygiene. It's so deeply ingrained into our consciousness by our parents. सुबह उठते हैं तो पहले बेसिन के पास चले जाते हैं, नींद में ही ब्रश करते हैं और फिर we go out wherever what we do, everything else that we want to do. It's so subconsciously into us. So mental hygiene is also equally important. Today in these COVID times, we are talking about physical health, we are talking about immunity, and now we are realizing that one of the most important part in all this is your mental health, is your mental immunity. Last Sunday we spoke about survival of the fittest. It's only the one who is mentally fit, along with being physically fit, can survive these tough times. It's only the one who does his servicing daily with maybe meditation, maybe pranayam, maybe some sort of healing and cleansing work which he has learned, which he has done, or is a part of some healing activity or group, that he's going to remain grounded, he's going to remain in this energy of being able to survive these tough times, especially times now when they're getting prolonged. We never thought, हमको लगा था 1-2 महीने में ये सब कोविड नाटक खत्म हो जाएगा. Every day when we read news, we read papers, we're realizing, oh God, there seems to be no end to this. And now we've started realizing that we have to learn to live with this. And learning to live with this just does not mean using sanitizers, using soap wash, using masks, taking immunity medicines, it also means working on your mind, working on your emotions, ensuring that you are happy within, ensuring that you're positive within. And then with that energy, when you step out to help others, you're giving something so much more important to others.